with you tonight. طبعا احنا we have been, أنا طبعا زعلان إن أبونا يوحنا absent. So هو called me وقال لي church is your church and go and قال لي يعني feel at home. بس أنا دايما I feel at home هنا. بحس انتوا بتحبوا ربنا قوي و very much كده هو fiery. طبعا we have been blessed today ان معانا ابونا جازر coming from Los Angeles. فانا كنت very much excited اجي اسمعه وهو هيكلمكم عن سانت ماري اسحاق السورياني، سانت ايزاك السوريان. عايز تقول حاجه ثانيه انت طيب غير اللي انا قلته؟ يلا in the name of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. يلا.
All right. So, out of all the people that have walked upon the face of the earth, there's no one more merciful than Saint Mary. Of course, we're excluding Christ himself, because he's not only a human being, he's human and God. But out of mere human beings, there's no one, not a single soul, more merciful than Saint Mary. And I want to talk to you about this concept and how Saint Mary reveals the depth of mercy through her life, and even until today. Okay, so let's first ask ourselves, what is mercy? And what does mercy do? What does mercy produce? Like, if you were to see someone who's merciful, what does that look like? Okay, so I think in the most simplistic way we can say that mercy produces compassion. Mercy prompts a person to help. A merciful person wants to forgive, wants to plead someone else's case, right? Like a merciful judge will pardon you, will forgive you, will let you off the hook, right? So mercy compels a person to intercede for the other. So if you're a merciful judge, you let someone off the hook, but if you're a merciful lawyer, you'll do whatever you can to plead the case of your client. And the more mercy you have, the more you will try to mediate as an intercessor or someone who helps to facilitate that process. Okay, and we know that this is the predominant role of Christ, right? Christ is our mediator. And St. John says this in the first epistle of John, chapter 2, and he calls Christ the Paraclete. A lot of times we think that this is a title only reserved for the Holy Spirit. But this is the actual Greek word that's used in the epistle of St. John. And so he is the Paraclete in the sense that he mediates for us. Because the Paraclete is the intercessor, the helper, the one who links heaven and earth, the one who serves as a bridge to mediate in that same way. So Saint Mary manifests her mercy for all creation, for all humanity, because she serves as a bridge or as a link in that very same way. Okay, she is a mediator just like Christ, but in the capacity that her humanity allows, right? So I want you to think of a mother that has a child that's involved in certain activities, maybe a sport, maybe her son loves basketball. And in as much as a mother cares for her son, she will also find interest in the interests of her son, right? Even if she doesn't know anything about basketball, she doesn't even know what a point guard is or how many people play on a basketball team, she'll be at the games rooting and just yelling and cheering, right? Because she makes the interests of her son the object of her own interests as well. Okay, now I want you to imagine that a mother has a son that has dedicated his life to a certain cause. Let's say a son is passionate about eliminating drug abuse, or helping people that are addicted to drugs. And he's raising money, and there are all these fundraisers and all of these events and meetings and connecting with social workers and you name it. His whole life, day and night, working to eliminate drug abuse. And he's making progress, and he's helping people join AA meetings or NA meetings or whatever, and little by little the city is changing, and you see that there are less drugs out on the streets. He's making a real impact, right? And one day, during this person's work, he gets caught up in a gang that doesn't like what he's doing, and they take him out. They kill this guy. Imagine how that mother would feel. Imagine her concern with continuing this legacy, if you were to put it that way. If you were to say this is what he dedicated his life for, this mission, this work, he wants to help eliminate this problem. How would she carry the torch? How would she also commit herself to the same cause that consumed the life of her son? She would also be out joining the rallies, and she would be out calling for meetings and fundraising. She would be equally concerned with eliminating drug abuse and helping people get off the streets and so on, right? And we can go to the extent that we could say, and as much as that mother loved her son, she would dedicate her life to her son's cause as well. Now, you see where I'm going with this, right? We see that the object of Christ's love was humanity. Saint Mary saw her own son dying for a very specific cause, the salvation of the human race. So for her to carry that torch, to say, if my son was so passionate about saving humanity, and I love my son with every fiber of my being, how can I not care just as much about continuing what he lived for? How can I not equally love the salvation of mankind? How could I not love that cause and dedicate myself to that cause? And so her mercy is revealed to us in that she always goes above and beyond in pleading our case and working to save us and working to mediate in that way, to intercede for us. So she sees someone struggling and she says, I gotta help him, my son died for him. Like, my son laid down my life for this person. So how can I love this person any less? Right? My son didn't just care about him, he died for him. Like if you saw someone that gave their life for a certain cause, you see that it was what consumed his whole heart. So this translates to the heart of Saint Mary. And in her mercy, she wants to continue this work. Continue the work of the humanity's salvation. All right? So we're going to jump into the life of Saint Isaac and his work, because this theme of love and mercy permeates the life of Saint Isaac. If you were to summarize Saint Isaac's work in one word, it would be mercy. It would be love, or some synonym of mercy. And not only did he write with that theme as the central topic in his work, but he himself dedicated his life to that. He asks a question: what is a merciful heart? It is a heart on fire for the whole of creation, for humanity, for the birds, for the animals, for demons, and for all that exists. By the recollection of them, the eyes of a merciful person pour forth tears in abundance. By the strong and vehement mercy that grips such a person, and by such great compassion, the heart is humbled and one cannot bear to hear or to see any injury or slight sorrow in any creation. For this reason, such a person offers up tearful prayer continually, even for irrational beasts, for the enemies of the truth, and for those who harm her or him, that they be protected and receive mercy. And in like manner, such a person prays for because of the great compassion that burns without measure in a heart that is in the likeness of God. So, mercy for St. Isaac is a heart that is burning for the salvation of all creation, to the extent that when you notice any creature in pain, far from God, any creature that's stumbling, it aches your own heart. That's what breaks the heart of a mother when she sees her own children in pain. And so this is the heart of mercy. That you do something about that brokenness. That when you see someone who's far, you want to help them. You want to plead their case, right? Like you see a criminal that may receive a harsh judgment, and if you're the judge and you can have a say in his destiny, you would want to give him a break. You would want to be merciful. If you know that there's a chance that he can change, and you want to give him hope, and you want to open the door for him to live a better life. So you mediate, you intercede, you pray. And this is at the top of St. Mary's concern. How can I help humanity? And she's standing in front of the throne, interceding for humanity day and night. When we're struggling, she just runs and says, no, my son died for him, I want to help him. And so she goes to Christ like, please, like, I know how much you love him or her. Like, poor Father Joe is really lazy, help him to just work a little bit harder. And that's what she prays for, because she's so merciful that she can't bear to see our pride, our laziness, our disobedience. She intercedes for us to be like her son, because her son died for us to have life and to have a relationship with him. But how did St. Isaac come to realize that this is what a merciful heart is all about? How did he come to realize that it's the merciful heart that burns and aches for the salvation of all humanity? I think he came to that realization by looking at the heart of God himself. Because he saw that this was at the center of God's concerns. No one among the early church fathers spoke of God's love with the immensity of St. Isaac. And I'm willing to stand by that statement. There are a lot of good, amazing, exceptional fathers in the church. But I think St. Isaac is at the top when it comes to bringing the concept of God's love to light. Listen to what he says in describing it. Among all his actions, there is none which is not entirely a matter of mercy, love, and compassion. This constitutes the beginning and the end of his dealings with us. In love, did God bring the world into existence? In love, is God going to bring it to that wondrous, transformed state? And in love, will the world be swallowed up in that great mystery of the one who has performed all these things? In love, will the whole course of the governance of creation be finally comprised? He continues to say, let's consider how rich in its wealth is the ocean of his creative act, and how many created things belong to God. And how, in His compassion, He carries everything, acting providentially as He guides creation. And how, with a love that cannot be measured, He arrived at the establishment of the world and the beginning of creation. And how compassionate God is, and how patient, and how He loves creation, and how He carries it, gently enduring its unfaithfulness, the various sins and wickedness, the terrible blasphemies of demons and evil men. He was so sensitive to God's love that He saw there was not a single activity that was not governed by love. Not a single activity that comes from God that didn't begin and end with love. And this is how we saw salvation as a whole. We see St. Isaac talking about the cross. He says, why all of this? He says, to manifest the greatness of His love. He could have done it any other way. But it had to be the cross. Because what could manifest the love of God more powerfully than the Creator hung on the cross naked, humiliated, shamefully mocked and abused. Why? Because of His love. And that's the saving grace that we receive from God. That our sins are swallowed up in His love. He says, like a handful of dust thrown into the sea, so are the sins of all mankind compared with the mercy and providence of God. How beautiful is that? So, for St. Isaac, the love of God was just a doorway for all humanity to enter and to experience God. Love is the passage. Love is the gate. Because once you experience that love, you come to know the heart of God. Once you experience that mercy, you see that He wanted nothing more than to reconcile us with the Father. And all of the fathers spoke about how that cross that was hung in the air was a bridge between humanity and the Father, right? And this is what Saint Mary does for us, by constantly praying for us, by constantly interceding for us, by serving as a mediator for us. So our task, just as Saint Mary imitated Christ and continues to do so now, is for us to imitate Saint Mary, to be mediators for humanity. So you want to be like Christ? You want to be like Saint Mary? Which I know I do, so this is the secret right here. To care about the salvation of humanity, just as Saint Mary cared about the salvation of humanity. St. Isaac continues to say in another place, let the scale of mercy always be prevalent within you, until you perceive in yourself that mercy which God has for the world. Let this condition become a mirror wherein we may see in ourselves that likeness and true image which naturally belong to the divine essence. You want to have the divine essence manifested? Then show mercy towards creation. Pray for creation. Intercede for all creation. Have a heart that burns when you see your brother and your sister straying away. Have a heart that aches when you see someone living in darkness. A lot of times we're not even conscious of it. We're just thinking about what's been going on in Afghanistan these last few days. And I mean, all over the world, like it's nothing new, to be honest. But you take a good look at what's going on in creation, because we've all strayed so far away from love, from truth. And even here in Chicago, we may not be facing the Taliban or whatever, but we're straying away from the truth in our own deceptive ways, and that should break our hearts. How did St. Isaac work in showing that mercy? How did he say, okay, I care for all creation, I'm going to do something about it? What is it that he did? I'll share with you one of my favorite quotes by St. Isaac. He says, "Rejoice with those who rejoice, and weep with those who weep. Such is the sign of purity. Suffer with the sick, be afflicted with the sinners, exult with those who repent, be the friend of all, but in your spirit remain alone." That's a profound statement. Be a friend of all, but in your spirit remain alone. And this is what every monastic manifests in his life of prayer. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but he says, "Be a partaker of the sufferings of all, but keep your body distant from all. Rebuke no one, revile no one, not even those who live very wickedly. Spread your cloak over the man who is falling and cover him. And if you cannot take up upon yourself his sins and receive his punishment in his place, then at least patiently suffer his shame and do not disgrace him." How did he show mercy? By identifying with the pains of his brothers and sisters. He identified with the pains of all creation. He had that sense of compassion. This is what empathy is all about. Not to just sympathize, but to go down to the pains of your brother and your sister and to lift them up with hope. This was the heart of St. Isaac. Every saint is concerned with covering the sins of all creation. When you see someone struggling, falling, you don't just point to it and say, "See, look what they're doing." You want to cover their sins. You know the story with the monastics when they told him, one of the monks is always sleeping during tasbih. Like, let's go and straighten him out. And the elder told them, get him a blanket and make sure he's comfortable. Like, who are you to judge him? Just worry about you. You're so worried about this monk next to you, you're not even praying while you're at tasbih. Cover the sins of others. That's compassion, that's mercy. Pray for them. Instead of all of these concerns about what they're doing wrong, pray for them. Really pray. But you can't pray unless you identify with the weaknesses and the struggles of others. Because you're going to end up praying out of a place of superiority. Because when I pray for someone who is struggling with a certain sin, I can pray in a way of condemnation, saying, "Oh God, help them to be more patient because I can't stand it." Because I talk to them and they're always short with me, and you need to fix him. Or that's not the way to intercede. That's not mercy. But when I see that I am just as much, if not even more, of a sinner, that I identify with the sins of all creation, and I say, I'm in need of more patience. Lord, I want to help my brothers and sisters, to put yourself at the disposal of humanity. And this is what takes us into the second concept, and this is what I'll conclude with. Aside from that sense of compassion and empathy and identifying with the pains and the struggles of creation, we have to take that into a real life of prayer. To really pray. And St. Isaac read and prayed so much, like reading the Psalter and writing. He even has so many beautiful prayers that are written down. He read and he wrote so much to the extent that he was blind before his departure. That's how much his eyes were buried in the Psalms and the Bible. His prayer life was no joke. He didn't just say, "Hey guys, you need to pray," and then he just sat down all comfortable in his cell. I want to just share with you how he prayed. So this is straight out of This is straight out of one of his prayers. May those who suffer from dire and grievous illnesses of the body also be remembered before you. Send to them an angel of compassion and assuage their souls, which are grievously tormented by their bodies' terrible afflictions. Have pity too, Lord, on those who are subjected to the hands of evil, wicked, and godless men. Send to them speedily an angel of compassion and save them from their plight. O my Lord and my God, send comfort to all those who are constrained by whatever kind of hardship. I beg and beseech you, Lord, grant to all who have gone astray a true knowledge of you, so that each and every one may come to know your glory. In the case of those who have passed from this world lacking a virtuous life and having had no faith, be an advocate for them, Lord, for the sake of the body which you took from them, so that from the single united body of the world we may offer up praise to the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit in the kingdom of heaven, an unending source of eternal delight. So, this is how he prayed. There's a beautiful section at the end of the Igbeya, and it's reserved for priests. It's the absolution of priests. But I think it's applicable for every Christian. Aside from, maybe at the very end where there's an actual prayer of absolution. But throughout the whole prayer, it's about 4 or 5 pages of placing every single group of people in the world in God's hands and saying, Lord, remember those who are sick and those who are poor, those who are in prison, those who have fallen into sin, those who have passed away, those who are... you look at this list and like people who have pets and people who don't have pets and people like, not literally, but like you cover every single person in the world. But what this does is it brings our hearts into that fellowship. The person who prays for the world is united with every member of the world. And in as much as we pray for the world and show that mercy, then we become just like Saint Mary. We become united, we become real members, not just idle Christians, but having a real life of prayer. St. Isaac says, we should pray with suffering, and we should make supplication to God for all these things with pain. And this is the attitude we should have toward all human beings. We should pray for them with suffering as for ourselves, for in this way the divinity will come and rest in us and cause His will to reside in us as in heaven, so on earth. If we're to walk away with one simple message from all this time that I spent talking to you about mercy and St. Mary, is that if we want to be true Christians, just like St. Mary, to have a heart of mercy, is to intercede for the world, to pray for the world. To pray for the world with suffering. We should pray with suffering, and it's uncomfortable. We were just talking with Ambabulus a little bit earlier about how the Christian has to step outside of his comfort zone, and it's a process of suffering. Prayer is work. Prayer is not a walk in the park. You ask the monks, what is the hardest thing that you do? They'll say, prayer. A prayer, like, don't you just dedicate your life to that? That should be easy. Like, you should be professionals at prayer. Nothing should be easier. But it's prayer. It's work. It gets boring. It gets monotonous. It's tiresome when you're exhausted and when you're busy and this and this and this. It's work. And if it's not work, I would really consider if you're doing it right. Reconsider if you're doing it right. If it's always just a walk in the park, you either have some exceptional grace, which does come, but it doesn't last for long. The grace comes in prayer, is just going to pour effortlessly with love and with tears. But every saint goes through the drought. Every saint suffers and goes to that time of feeling abandoned. The abandonment is real, it's suffering, and it has to come through that progression in prayer. So I'll leave you with the words of Bishop Hilarion, who wrote a wonderful book on the life of St. Isaac. It's called The Spiritual Life of St. Isaac. And if you want to learn more about this amazing saint, I highly recommend that you read this book. He says, St. Isaac was one of those ancient Christian writers who possessed a universal vision encompassing a constant memory of the entire world and the whole creation, of all people and their sufferings. This is the paradox of a solitary life. Remember how I told you a little bit earlier that he said to be a friend of all, but in your heart remain alone? This is the paradox of the solitary life. Every man is alone, but he brings the whole world with him into prayer. So Bishop Hilarion says, this is the paradox of a solitary life. Withdrawing from people, a recluse doesn't forget them. Renouncing the world, he doesn't cease praying for it. Isaac loved solitude and stillness, but any kind of closing it upon himself, any thought of his own salvation apart from his brethren, was entirely alien to him. He possessed that merciful heart, which is characterized by having compassion on all creatures, not only Christians, but also apostates, animals and demons. And that was a very radical way of praying. Because when Christ said, love your enemies, St. Isaac took that literally. Like, who's a bigger enemy than the demons? But that's the extent of his compassion and his love. His personal prayer, like liturgical prayer, grew to a cosmic scale, embracing not only neighbors and strangers, but the whole of humanity and the entire universe. And to God is due all glory forever. Amen.
It's the very